Join us for the Paranormal Rockdown. We kick off the event Friday, July 18th from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. at Main Street Music in Brooklyn, Wisconsin, where we feature bands Left on Red, Switchblade Saturdays, Etched in Embers, Fiction We Create, January, Again We Rise, and our headliner Green Jelly. Saturday, July 19th, starting at 11 a.m. at Broadhead Manor in Broadhead, Wisconsin, we have our Paracon featuring Dave Schrader, Sam Beltrusis, Scotty Rourke, Dustin Perry via Zoom, Sarah Lamos, Nick Simons, Kenneth Drake, Stream Beacon TV, Dark Realm TV, and over 30 more great guests you won't want to miss. We have over 40 vendors, speakers, workshops, gallery readings, and so much more. A special thank you goes out to each of our sponsors. Get your tickets before they sell out at paranormalrockdown.com, and we hope to see you at the Paranormal Rockdown.
Hello, everyone. My name's Sean Ellis, and I am filling in for Ms. Gwen John tonight. And I'm going to introduce your host to Bridging the Seen and Unseen, Mr. Shane McLain.
Hey, guys. Hey, thank you for showing up. Thank you for tuning in to Bridging the Seen and Unseen. I am so excited about tonight. My guest is probably one of the best people I've ever had the pleasure to get to know, and she is a world-renowned psychic, and her name is Kathrine Sorilos. So can we bring her on?
Yep.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I'm glad to have you here. I've talked to you several times about coming on, and I know you're a very busy woman, but I always start the show out. Can you tell everybody this a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Where do I start? I'm the founder of Oracle Whispers. Also, I belong to a team called HungerNights Paranormal in Greece, and they've been a team. Well, I've been in the paranormal field for many years, and I just joined this team about a year ago. When I came back from, I lived in Scotland, and then I went to America for a few months, and then when I came back from America, I joined this team. So they're really great. They're a really great team. The way they do the paranormal investigations is exactly how they do them in America, with all the little gadgets and everything. So it's fun. It's fun with them. It's actually it's fun. It's serious, and we're not just a team. We're friends. We're like family, and that's what a team is supposed to be.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that better, and with everything that's going on in the paranormal field, I wish more teams would come together instead of splitting apart like they do. And it's refreshing to hear that you do have a team like that, that's family, because you really need to trust each other when you're out on these investigations.
Exactly. Now that we're doing the 7-day experiment, I think I sent you that little video. We're doing a 7-day experiment.
I did. Miss Kathrine, we were having so much trouble getting that video to download to a PDF. And to get it to break down, we were having so much trouble. It was through something we've never seen before.
So the
And,
retransfer, the way I sent it to you.
yeah, we were having so much trouble. I tried, Gwen tried. So what we're gonna do is we have to open up a whole nother thing to get it to actually download properly so we can see it. But we're gonna watch.
Okay.
We're gonna see it, and we're gonna put it. Those commercials that you saw, you're gonna see. You're gonna see yours on there soon.
Okay. So the 7-day experiment. This is what happened. Well, it's the concept of the 28-day. The one that Tony Sparrow did, 28 Days Haunted.
Yes.
But it's the concept of what Lorraine Warren said, that you need to do actually to break down the veil, you need those 28 days. We are accelerating that a little bit, and we're doing it in the next, we're going to be doing it for 7 days only.
Wow.
But 7 days of deprived sleep. It's gonna be really hardcore. We're gonna have half the team in the control room. So this is all gonna happen at an escape room here in Greece. It's called the Darkwood Escape Room, and apparently the owners, the actors, the people that have come to play in the escape room, the players, they've all complained about being touched and hearing voices and seeing shadows, seeing different things, right? So they actually caught a few images in the control room in some videos when there was, when players were playing the game. So they called us for an investigation, and then our team leader, Nick, decided that we can do that 7-day experiment. And it's going to be really hardcore. Half the team is going to be in the control room. The other half is going to be investigating. I'm going to be with the team that's going to be investigating. We are going to have deprived sleep, which means that we will go hardcore for the first 3 days without sleeping, maybe a couple of hours only. And then actually try and do it for 7 days if we can do it.
Wow. Yeah, now I know going deprived like that, taking yourself out, that's kind of familiar with the Estes method and stuff like that. It's deprivation. Do you think that is possibly dangerous in a hostile haunting situation?
In our situation, we're going to have 2 nurses there as well, just in case one of us, starts hallucinating or seeing things or getting anger issues. In a very hostile situation, it is quite dangerous. You got to have people watching over you. You got to have, in the control room, my husband's going to be in the control room as well. So what's going to happen if one of us starts, for instance, going psycho or hitting ourselves against the wall or screaming or hallucinating really bad or, talking to ourselves, the person is going to stop.
The reason why I say that too is I have a friend who was doing a real hostile area, and his girlfriend was getting too into it, and she was walking around by herself with an EVP recorder, and she was getting something, and she got something, and she put it real close to her ear to hear, and an electric transference happened, and it got in and changed her completely. So they had to get her out because like she was screaming, her eyes changed bloodshot. I mean, it's dangerous to do that.
It is, but like I said, we're going to have nurses there. We're going to have people in the control room. So as soon as one of us gets out of line, they're out of the game completely. They're out of the experiment.
Okay.
And that's it. So can you get possessed by something like that? Can something overcome you? Yes. And it's got to do with, like you said, the electric currency. They say that if you start seeing like blue little lights or blue little like electrical lights in front of you or in your eyes or whatever, you've opened up the gateways, you've opened up the dimensions. So anything can pop in, or you can pop over to their side, or they can pop into your side.
Good or bad?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So it can either pull you in, or it can pull you, or you can pull it into your dimension.
Right. Or it can come in there and wreak havoc where you are. I can't imagine where that is. Now, with you being a trance psychic, with you doing that, can you explain that a little bit and exactly like, and I know you were talking about the gadgets and everything like that. Now, you being who you are, you probably don't use a lot of gadgets, do you?
I don't use any gadgets. I hate them.
You hate that? Okay, yeah. See, okay.
They do my minding. They do my ears. I can't work with them. Sometimes I can work with not with a spirit box, but with a ghost tube. Like, yes, if I get some answers, but I don't usually give it any attention. Or the yes and no flashlights. That's the only things that are subtle for me that I might be able to work with. Other than that, a human being is a gadget. It's a human being has all the senses that a gadget has, and a human being is an EMF. They're an EVP. They're a REM pod. They're your yes and no questions. Every human being is like you're having the whole gadgets there. You know what I mean? So you don't need them. To me, you don't need them to an investigation. It's all
And I
flash.
think yeah, I do agree with you. I'm old school. I'll be 48 at the end of this month, and
I'm older than you.
oh, yeah, but you'll stay young at heart. You're gonna be 150 before anything happens to you. You're an exception to that rule, I believe. But I'll be 48 and I'm old school. I had my first experience when I was 10 years old when I saw my grandfather. And I've always known that there's paranormal and I've always known that there's something out there and we can't really scientifically like put our finger on it and say what this exactly is, but I know it's there. And
Yes.
we would use old school stuff, like we would take red Solo cups and we would take and turn them upside down, two of them, and take ping pong balls and rub them against your head, and then you take them and put them on top of the top of the Solo cup, and if an entity got close to it, the static friction would cause the ball to move over to the side. So we didn't use a lot of those either. Now some of them are good, like your EVPs, your spirit boxes, REM pods. They're hit or miss, really. They're hit or miss. But there are some equipment that that is really useful in an investigation. And if you haven't tried the ones on your phone, you talking about Ghost Tube and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's two that I would recommend. I would recommend Spirit Talker, and I would recommend Necrometer.
Okay, I've got necrophonics on mine,
It's
and
Necrometer. Is totally different. If you have someone running Spirit Talker and have someone running Necrometer, and you're asking questions, you'll see them start to sync in with each other.
okay, synchronizing, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so I do have Spirit Talker on there. Like I've got so many apps, but I never use them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the necrophonics, as soon as I turn it on, it's like, oh no, I can't hear this. It's just like I
Right.
switch back.
Right.
So Necrometer and Spirit Talker, gotcha.
Yep. That's what my wife and I use. We did an investigation. We got called by my dialysis center, and the
Mhm.
lady is a diehard skeptic there. Diehard skeptic. Well, there was a guy that sat in my chair when I wasn't there who was very suicidal, and he ended up committing suicide. And to find out it wasn't just him that committed suicide, his sister committed suicide, his mother committed suicide, his dad committed suicide. So he had a generational legacy there, and it caused such a havoc. I'm talking when Angie and I went in there, Miss Catherine, I'm telling you, across this wall, we were all on one side. Across this wall, I have never seen a shadow figure so big just stand up on a wall like this. And it was
It was,
such a dark energy in there. And
mhm.
it took what, Angie, what did it take us, what, 3.5 hours to 4 hours? Yeah, it took us 4 hours just to cleanse the entire building.
I bet. Don't forget that in a place like that, where you go and have dialysis, right? There's a lot of people that go there that are sick.
Hmm.
So you have the thoughts in there, you've got their emotions in there, you've got some of them might never come out alive from there. There's death at the corner.
Life and death tinkering each other.
Exactly. So even by sitting in that chair, everybody, just say your chair, right, where you were sitting, everybody that's been sitting in that chair before you, they've all left their imprint, the residual imprint. So imagine all that enhancing. Of course, you're going to get that dark form.
Hmm. They were getting touched. They were having some of the technicians that have been there for 30, 40 years. She went to go open the building one day, and she said either a black guy, how she described it was there was either a black guy or a black shadow figure like peeping at her from around the corner. And it was so like terrorizing to her. She actually called the cops up there.
Yeah.
The cops came and cleared the building or whatever. And then the lady that was a skeptic that came in, she was in the office by herself, and she had her hair pulled. She got touched. She got everything. And then next thing you know, they're calling me, and they're like, Shane, we really need your help. We are dead serious. Something's going on in a dialysis center. We know you can do something. And so Angie and I, we scheduled, and we went up there, and we did a investigation, and then we did a clearing and cleansing, and they have been good ever since.
Oh, good. Oh, good, good, good.
Yeah.
So whatever was, gathering there, you guys cleansed it.
Well, he
That
needed to be
doesn't.
free. He needed to be free, because I mean,
Mhm.
if he committed suicide, he was stuck in a place, he probably didn't want to be, but he spent most of his time there. and
Exactly.
and
So,
and we were getting his name. We were getting his name over the spirit boxes. We were getting his
mhm.
name. We were getting his energy. We were feeling like when we would walk past his chair, whatever, you can feel like the coldness that was there. Our temperature gauges were going off. Our our ghost meter was going off, and I mean it really was an interesting night. And some people have told me that you can't do dialysis centers, and I don't think that's true at all, because if you can go and investigate a hospital, then you can investigate a dialysis center too.
it's exactly the same. It's exactly the
I know.
same. And don't forget that souls that are trapped or they stay behind and don't move forward, they usually go to the places where they had most of the memories. So that person went to the dialysis center, maybe his home. They usually do a pattern. So he spent most of his time in the dialysis center. So
yeah, and that's exactly what we were trying to explain, to them. I don't think it was a harmful. I think with the emotion behind his suicide, what caused him to commit suicide, and then the emotion of other people that have died there and things like that, I think it amped up into something more like an allegory, or more like an allegory or something like that that had created itself there, that manifested itself there. But once we figured it out and broke it down, it was pretty easy to really do the cleansing. But it took so long because I'm so meticulous with I do a very theological cleansing, and it took so long because you touch every single wall, every single mirror, you close all entryways, doorways, portals, all mirrors, every single chair, every single office, every single desk. I mean, every single thing in there got touched with holy water and holy oil. So that's, I believe in it. I know it works, and I know it worked there. So coming to America, I know the 7-day experience is in Greece. What's going to happen there?
In Greece or in America?
In America, when you come here.
Okay. So we've been invited to the Rock Island Roadhouse Expo, and as VIP investigators. And we're going to be investigating. Well, we're going to do a presentation there. We're going to investigate. And then after that, we're going to be staying in America for about a month. And we are, from now, like in the next couple of weeks, we're going to book some of the venues. Like we're looking at the Monroe House, the Axe Murder House, Eddie Brown Manor, mainly in the Midwest, like around Iowa, Illinois, Chicago, Indiana. So mostly and mainly at the Midwest. So that's what we're going to be investigating there for about a month. Different places.
There's some stronghold places there. There's some really. Are you guys hitting Kansas at all?
No, because it's the distance, because we'll be traveling by car. We're going to rent a car. So, it's the distance going, because we'll be staying at my friend's house, Candy.
Candy Slater.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be staying at her house, and moving back and forth will be, financially a bit hard. Right.
I say because in Kansas is the infamous Sally House.
Okay. How far is Kansas from Illinois, from Iowa?
Well, Iowa's way up at top. Kansas is more. It really shouldn't be. Iowa takes a long time to go through. It really does. I mean, you talk about rolling hills with cornfields and stuff like that. That's Iowa. But I'm not sure exact. Can you look up how far it is, babe? Can you look it up real quick? But also in Mineral Wells, Texas, there is the Haunted Hill House.
6 hours and 43 minutes.
It's 6 hours and 43 minutes from Iowa to Kansas.
Right. Okay. Kansas, Dorothy, Kansas, Wizard of Oz, Kansas. That's it.
Yep, Wizard of Oz. Everybody knows that. But the infamous Sally House is there, and I'm telling you, I know several very reputable teams that places like the Sally House and Haunted Hill House and the Axe Murder House, they wouldn't even let their teams in there because of what has happened to people in those places.
Yeah. I've investigated them. I've investigated the old YMCA that now it's called the Rock Island I've investigated that place twice, 3 times. So this is going to be my 4th time. And I've investigated the Monroe House as well.
You have.
And
You have.
I have. And that was back in 2022. Not a very nice experience.
No.
As a psychic and trance medium, as soon as I went down to first of all, I don't know if you've been to that house. Have you been?
I've been right to the outside of the axe murder house. I didn't get a chance to go on the inside. I was right there where the sign is, where it says axe murder house. I was right there.
Yeah, no, not the axe murder house, the Monroe house.
Oh, okay, all right. No, I haven't been there yet. No.
So I haven't investigated the axe murder house. I've investigated the Monroe house, and it wasn't a good experience at all. I felt everything. I felt it was like a vortex. It was like you could see the spirits parading right through the house. You could feel them by the thousands just parading through. And there was a point where I was like, you could hear like the rest of the team that was there was investigating, and they were doing the Estes method. They were doing the they were doing the Estes method, I think. And you know, the one was asking the questions. One of the ladies was asking the questions. The other one was answering. So it kept on saying, "Get out of here! Get the F out of here! Go away!" And I was like, "Guys, you need to stop. We need to stop investigating. They're coming." And they wouldn't listen to me. So I sat in the staircase of the basement, and I had my flashlight right next to me. And I got into a trance mode, and I started going, "They're coming, they're coming, they're coming." And all of a sudden, my flashlight just lifted up midair and just went bang against the wall. And that's when they stopped investigating. Yeah. So it was quite... we slept there, and it wasn't like, it wasn't a good experience at all. So that's something I need to come up against again when I come back to America.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I mean, those darker experiences like that. Do you and your team, have a good way of grounding and protecting and stuff like that before?
Yep, I do, because I do cleansings as well, and I do protections. I usually carry my stuff with me. So as soon as we leave the premises, wherever we leave from, I do a cleansing little ritual on myself, on the team. As soon as I come home, I jump in the shower, I take off my clothes right at the door, my shoes. I don't walk in with my investigating clothes in my house. I don't bring with me whatever has left its imprint on me. So as soon as I get home, I change, I jump in the shower, I add salt and camphor oil. Do you know what camphor oil is, right? Yeah, essential oil. So a few drops of that, because what it does, it cuts off any etheric cords that might have connected you with the premises that you've been investigating. And then as soon as I come out of the shower, I grab my selenite, boom, all over me to cut any connections whatsoever.
Do you get rid of the selenite, or do you keep it?
I keep it because I take it out in the moonlight and I cleanse it. And then I usually put it, because I've got a big one. And what I do is I usually put it on my other crystals to, absorb any negativity, because you can't wash it into water. So either I dump it in salt, or I put it on my other crystals, and then I take it out in the moonlight. And I usually take it on the moonlight when the moon is waning, so it can pull away any negativity, and then recharge when the moon is full.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. I've always said, if it works, if things like that work, crystals and things like that, just they've never really worked for me. But I haven't put my my whole trust and thought process into them either, because I am a theological minister, so when I go and I approach these, I approach them in a very methodical and theological way. But if it works for you, I think it's fascinating. When did you find out that you actually had a psychic ability?
I'll tell you in a minute. What happens is when I was with the Warren Legacy Foundation, I learned to work with all religions. I come from a background of Greek Orthodox, right?
Yep, great, yep.
So trust me, I've got on my stash right there with my crystals and all that. I've got a lot of oils, blessed oils that have come from Mount Athos. You know where Mount
Oh yeah,
Athos
yeah,
is?
oh yeah, for sure.
I've got little bottles like that, blessed oils from the priest from Mount Athos. I've got a big bottle of olive oil that's from the candle of Archangel Michael in Mytilene.
Nice.
So I've got, when it comes to different kind of encounters, depends on what I come across. I will use my weapons. That's what I call them.
100%. I have a whole kit. I use the whole kit. I use the white candles, the white archangel candles. I use frankincense anointing oil. I use holy water from Jordan River. I use a Saint Benedict crucifix.
Hmm.
There's so many things that I use in that kit that are just very beneficial, when you're doing a cleansing. So
Exactly.
I definitely understand that. And I think it's interesting to hear people and their methods on how they do a cleansing and everything. And I wish paranormal teams were more careful. And that's one thing that I try to do, working in the order that I work in, is to help paranormal teams, better ground themselves, better protect themselves before, during, and after an investigation. And I found a lot of them are lacking that. And I found a lot of paranormal teams that have tried to go and do residential cases, and they don't know to do anything but to investigate, and then they go
Yeah,
stir things up, and then they have to call somebody like me in to come fix what they did.
I know exactly what you mean. And you know what else? The thing is, well, if you're going to the reason why I work with different religions and the way I work with them is because, say somebody calls you and it's a private property, a private residence, and they're Muslim, right? Because you have, like, they're all over the place, Muslims, Hindus, different religions everywhere. So you can't go with your cross to cleanse and bless a house that's Muslim. They're Muslim and you need to respect the religion. So what you're going to do is you're going to work with the Quran.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that's why I learned to work with, like, if you look at my library, I've got my library. I've got different books of different religions. Like, I've got the Quran, I've got the Greek Orthodox, I've got the Bible, I've got the little book of exorcisms in Latin. So yeah, I've got a mixture of religious books.
That's the yeah. I use, I'm like I said, I'm very theological, so I use, and if I ever, I haven't ran into a case, with a Muslim or anything like that, but usually when I do a clearing and cleansing, I do it just with my wife and I, and then towards
Mhm.
the end, the people will come in, and then we do a finishing prayer and things like that over the family or whatever. But I can imagine, I mean, you have to take in all this knowledge to be able to help people right where they are.
Exactly. So what was your question about? My psychic,
Yeah. How, like, when did you find out? Like, how young were you?
I was
When
11.
11. Wow.
I was 11 years old when I started sort of seeing things, hearing things. I will come back from school and I will always feel that there was someone always following me. And I would always look behind me and there was no one there, but I could feel the presence. And, you know, being a child of 11 and back in the Generation X, so back in those days, you know, you didn't talk about these things with your parents. And so I would whistle in the middle of the road because I would be scared. But my first encounter with the paranormal was when my auntie from my dad's side, she took my mother and myself to a monastery, the Saint Cypriot monastery here in Greece. And I witnessed my first exorcism.
Oh, wow.
And
And
because
how old
here
were you
11,
when you saw an exorcism?
yes. The
Wow.
church, the Church of Saint Cypriot here in Greece, it's a monastery, and every Wednesday and Friday they perform exorcisms. So a lot of the people come who might feel that they might be possessed by magic or by curses or by demons, that will come to that monastery, and the priests every Wednesday and every Friday they will perform exorcisms. They will start with rites, reading rites and blessings, and then depends on what's happening and how the person is reacting, then they will do an exorcism. So we went to the monastery to pay our respects and light up a candle. And then there was a lot of people there. My auntie didn't know that they were doing, like every Wednesday, a lot of the followers and the believers will come to the monastery to pay their respects, and a lot of them had issues. And then I witnessed my first exorcism there of a young girl. I still remember her hair being black in a little short bob like that with a little fringe. She must have been in her 20s. She was wearing black clothes. And she was on the floor swearing at the priest really badly. The priest, you know, it's like you're seeing in the movies, you know, throwing the holy water, reading the rites, reading the exorcism, and she bent her back in a way I've never seen in my life. And that she had 4 big men holding her down and they couldn't hold her down.
Oh, yeah.
So all that, being a psychic and being an empath, actually, being an empath, because when you're 11 years old, you're an empath, you're not a psychic yet. So being an empath, I could feel everybody's vibration in there, everybody's thoughts, and
Fear.
I could hear the thoughts, I could hear their emotions, their heartbeats. I could feel the girl, how she was feeling inside her, and I couldn't breathe. So I came out of the church and I sort of passed out. There was too much emotion for me.
Wow.
And then at the age of 15, I had my first real apparition. My best friend then, we're not friends anymore, but because I was born and brought up in Australia by Greek parents, and so the Greek element was really strong in our house. So we were living in the street. We had a lot of Greek families there, right? Where we were living in Sydney, Australia, and my best friend then, Kerry, her father committed suicide, and he committed suicide in the garage, right? He hung himself. So our neighbor, her mother, she started calling out my mum and my dad to come over quickly. We were only like 2 houses away. So she was running around like crazy in the middle of the street calling my mum and dad. So it was my mum that actually cut the rope off his, of her dad. So they kept it hush hush. No one, especially around the neighborhood and being in the Greek community, it didn't sit well somebody in the Greek community committing suicide. And after the 40 days, because we do the 40 days and the 50 days until the soul passes over, etc. So after the 40 days, after his funeral, 40 days later, Kerry said to me, why don't you come over and sleep at my house? We can watch a movie, we can sit around, etc. So she never spoke about what her father did. She never said anything to me. But, from hearing it around, from like conversations from my mum and dad, I sort of picked up a few things. And then as I was sleeping in Kerry's room, in her bed, I felt something pull my covers. And then I sort of pulled them back up, and then I felt it pulling back down again. So I started covering my head like every kid does at the age of 15.
You think that protects you?
Exactly. So I sort of peeked and I saw her father as I see you at this moment, like full solid apparition. And he started telling me, Kerry was actually sleeping, and he started telling me the reason why he committed suicide. He had cancer in the bones, he was in a lot of pain, so he couldn't handle the pain, so he decided to take his own life.
So he didn't tell his family about any of that?
This is the funny part. He left a little note. Which when my mother opened up the garage, well, not my mother, his wife opened up the garage and found him hanging from the garage, from the noose. The wind blew the little paper underneath the fridge that was in the garage. So it was a little piece of paper where he wrote everything down. And he said to me, there's a little piece of paper where I've written everything down, and the reason why I committed suicide and everything that's been happening, tell them it's behind that fridge. So, and then he left. And then I woke up Kerry and I said, Kerry, your dad was here. She was looking at me like crazy going, what do you mean? I said, I saw him as a ghost. And she was sort of looking at me like I was going crazy. I said, let's get up and go into the garage. There's a note that your father has left. And as soon as we pulled the fridge, there was the note. Explaining everything. After that, Kerry sort of got scared. She stopped talking to me, stopped hanging around.
After you told her that?
After I told her that. Yeah. Like, back in the 1980s, it was 1985, 82, 83, 84, 85, 1985, 85, 86. So, yeah. And then ever since then, I after that, well, before that, when we went to the Greek monastery here in Greece, when I was 11, because we stayed in Greece for a few years as well. We're going back and forth, Australia, Greece. I did some seminars at the age of 11, 12 before we went back to Australia, and they were called psychodynamics. And that's where I learned how to use my abilities, how to do telekinesis, remote viewing, hypnosis. It enhanced my abilities even more. And then we went back to Australia, and then I came back to Greece in 1994, then went back and then back again. I've been everywhere.
It's fascinating to me. It's fascinating because I've always wondered, because like I told you, I get premonitions and visions, and what I get is not something that I asked for. I wish I didn't get them, but they have turned out to save people. My mother was one of them. Like I said, we were at a stoplight, and I got a vision with my mom in the car. And as soon as I did, it was terrifying. And I remember coming out of it, and I said, "Mom, please don't go. Whatever you do, please don't go. Stay right here. Stay right here." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And we were in the left-hand lane at the front of the stoplight. And the guy that was sitting next to us, I remember turning and looking at him like this. And the last thing he did was looked at us, or her, or whoever it was, looked at us. And the light turned, and a six-wheeler truck came and ran and made that left right there and T-boned the car that was right next to us, flipped the car over and pinned it up against a concrete pole and killed every single person.
See, with what you do,
I don't want it, Ms. Catherine. And I wish I didn't get it. I don't know how to tame it. I don't know how to control it. I don't even know what you call it.
okay, I'll tell you what it is. First of all, it's part of your work. It's part of who you are. What you do, Shane, is you help people, you guide people, you teach people, you do cleansings, you do protections. Look at it as a prophet of God. So it's like you've got a job to do. So this is like a gift given to you, because we all have gifts. Every single person has gifts. We're born with our gifts. They're imprinted in our DNA. We have our spiritual gifts and our psychic gifts, and they're both imprinted from day one in our DNA. So doing what you do the work of God. So what did God have? He had prophets. So what you're doing, you're having premonitions and precognitions. Premonitions is when you can actually feel that something's coming, something's going to happen, but you can't exactly pinpoint what it is. A precognition is when you know exactly what's going to happen. So you've got both. You have your premonitions and your precognitions.
And they happen so fast. They happen so fast. I mean, it comes out of nowhere. My ears will start ringing, and then it goes from ringing, and then I go into almost a dream-like state for I don't know how long I'm there, but it happened with my wife, with her father. I had one like that, and I told her, and I said, "Angie, I said, we have to get out of here. You have to get out of here right now." And she was like, "What?" And she was getting herself together. And sure enough, I mean, like, her dad was a pretty bad man, and he showed up with a bunch of bikers, and they had Angie surrounded. And I mean, it could have got really, really bad.
Could have been really bad. It could have gotten worse. So it's like you knew it was going to happen, and you took her out of that situation, and that's going to help you in the future, because when you're going to come across something really big is coming. Something's coming really big until 2030. That's going to change our world around. And people like you are going to be needed out there to warn situations.
Well, I don't ever know when it's coming. How can I like it comes out of nowhere.
Okay. It will always come out of you. This is something you can't tame. Premonitions and precognitions is something that you can't tame. They will either come through your dream state. They will come by you just sitting there and going into a trance state. So what you do is you need to have a little journal, and you need to start writing down. Even if you go into a trance, even if you wake up from a dream, you need to write down exactly what date it happened that you saw the phenomena, or you saw the premonition, the time, and the symbolism. And even if it doesn't make sense, you need to write down exactly what you saw, because looking back at it, it will make perfect sense. So you can't control. Okay, I get into trance. I'm a channeler. Okay, I do channeling and I do trance, and I can channel I mean, if you remember, Larissa had me on her house many times as remote viewing and channeling as well. So I can control my channeling and I can control my remote viewing and my trance state. It took a while to learn how to do that, but I've gotten to the point where I can switch it on and I can switch it off. With you being who you are and prophesizing things, you can't control that. It will come when it wants to, and it will give you the answers that you need.
Why is it always bad?
Because why is it always bad? Look at all the prophets.
I know they're never wanted in their hometown. They're never wanted.
Exactly. And they always prophesized the worst and whatever was coming and the wrath of God and the pain. Look at Nostradamus. He was a prophet.
Yep.
He would scry through water and he will go in, well, the water helped him go into a trance state. And it will be like he'll be able to see visions he was able to see visions through the water when he was going to it. Because what he did with the candle and the water is another gateway, like a mirror. So, and water is opens up a lot of gateways to other dimensions, right? So, and it carries emotion, etc. The mirror does exactly the same thing. It helped him more to be able to see things. With you, it comes like that, naturally, like it did with prophets. And if you go back and read it, what Nostradamus predicted, not everything was good.
Yeah, and I wish like I said, I don't really know how to control them. One of the last ones that I had was in my dialysis center, and I was sitting next to a guy who was a deaf and mute, and he was sleeping next to me, and the nurse came through with the blood bank. That's where they pull the needles out, and whatever blood is left over in the bank, it goes into the thing. And she knocked it over, and the blood went underneath his chair. And as soon as that happened, I had one. And I thought it was towards the nurse. And I told her, I said, listen, I said, I don't know what it is. I said, but I saw it looked like tubes in front of me, and I saw blood being pumped in and out of the tubes like this. I said, I don't know what that means, but I have to tell you. And I couldn't have told the mute guy anyway. But that night, after the blood went in his chair, the mute guy went home and he died in his sleep. And when they did the autopsy of him, he had blood in his lungs. So what I saw was the blood filling up his lungs.
Exactly. You saw it as tubes, but see, sometimes we can't interpret what we see. But you saw it in tubes going up and down, so it was going back and forth in his lungs. So
it freaked me out. It really did freak me out.
I just popped in, Shane. You're about 5 minutes to the top of the hour, so just to let you know.
Okay. All right. See, I can talk to you, Miss Kathrine, for forever. Can you just tell everybody how to get a hold of you and how they can find you?
They can find me through Facebook as Kathrine Sorilos, as my name is written right there. Same as in Instagram, on TikTok, and YouTube as well.
That's amazing, and I can't thank you enough for doing this interview with me, this show. It's been amazing, and I mean, I can talk to you. Matter of fact, if you stay on after, I'd like to talk to you after the show a little bit. My wife would like to ask you a few questions also.
No worries.
it has been an absolute pleasure having you, and I hope your time in America is all that you hope it will be, and I know that you've got some great work to do, and I cannot wait to hear, the results and things that you get from what you're doing.
Well, maybe while I'm there, we might meet halfway somewhere.
I would love that. I would love to absolutely meet you. Like I said, I'm near Savannah area, and I would love to meet you. You're such a positive and just inspirative person, and I really admire you, and I think the world is better off with people like Kathrine Sorilos.
Oh, thank you. I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
I read.
No, 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 and I think it is, and I thank you for being on my show. And I think what I'd like to do is, if it's okay with you, I'd like to have possibly a round two in the
Yep,
future.
anytime,
We come on
anytime.
because we've only really scratched the surface on some of the things that I'd like to talk about with you. Um, but I can't wait to do a round two with you, and I thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you. It was my pleasure actually being on your show. Thank you
All
very much.
all right. What we're going to do is he'll take you and he'll put you backstage. Just stay backstage, and then I'll close out the show, and then I'll talk to you right after. Okay.
No worries. Thank
All
you.
right, Miss Gavin. Thank you very much,
Bye.
Another great
guys.
show, Shane.
That was she's such a fantastic person. I've known her for a couple of years now, and I'm telling you, Kathrine is probably one of the most heartfelt people that you'll ever meet, and she is a world renowned psychic. So I mean, like I said, she's a trance psychic, and she has done cold cases. She's done so many things to really help people, and I think that's what it's about. And I really look forward to having her again. And but I want to thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this show. I'm gonna go into the hospital this coming week to have another go at this operation to see if I can get everything fixed with my dialysis. So y'all keep me in your thoughts and your prayers. But thank you guys for tuning in, and just know I love you all and I appreciate each and every one of you. You guys stay safe, be blessed always, and stay spooky, people. Peace.